Hello, this is Nancy, and today we're going to do some really wonderful, easy bread baking. Make a potato scallion loaf of bread. It will be so wonderful. Your family will just really enjoy it. We're going to start by 1 cup of potato water. The water that our potato was cooked in. Then we're going to add our cooked potato, and we're going to mash it. And this will make a wonderful, moist loaf of bread. Now you can use instant mashed potatoes, but it's not quite the same because you don't have the starchy water that you cook the potato in. All right. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. We're going to add the butter to the warm potato water. And then we're going to begin adding flour. And we will start with the bread flour. Here's my 1 cup measure. And remember, with bread baking, you can do a scoop and scrape with the flour, totally unlike anything you would do if you were baking cookies or a cake. We have 1 cup of flour, and we're going to add another 1/2 cup of flour, a tablespoon of yeast. Again, let me tell you, I use Fleischmann's yeast. I buy it in a large quantity, that's why I have it in a small canister here. Add a tablespoon of sugar, and stir it together. We're stirring it all together. We've got a very heavy dough here, but it's still very sticky, so I'm going to add more flour. I've added more flour, and I'm going to stir in green onions that have been finely chopped in the food processor. You can certainly chop them by hand, but if you have a food processor, that makes quick work of it. Stir in the flour and the scallions. Got a very heavy dough now. And so now we're going to flour the bench and tip out the dough. I'm going to flour my hands because this dough is still very sticky. People ask if you can over-knead the dough, and really, when you're kneading by hand, it's unlikely you would do that. One of the problems with the bread machines is that they do oftentimes over-knead the bread, and when you're doing it by hand, it might take 8 or 10 minutes kneading before the dough is, the gluten is well developed. But during that time, you are not going to be over-kneading. I need more flour. And of course, I'm using bread flour. With bread flour, you have, it's a harder wheat, and you have better gluten development and a better rise. Knead with the heel of your hand, pull it toward you, and work the flour in. And yes, it is possible to add too much flour, but I'll show you the marker to look for. It will tell you when you have added enough flour and that you don't need any more. A little more flour. It feels like I've added enough flour. I'm going to turn the loaf inside out. On the very inside, there's the least amount of flour. And if you look at this closely, you can see it's a very rough surface. I'm going to flour my index finger and thumb and take a good sized pinch and count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's still very sticky, which indicates that it does need more flour. before it will be ready. So I'm going to knead in more flour, and then I'll check it again. Knead with the heel of your hands, and you push it forward into the flour, and then you pull it back. I've kneaded in considerably more flour. Now I'm going to do the pinch test again. Turning the dough inside out, you see how rough it is on the inside, because that's where there's the least amount of flour. I'm going to flour my index and finger and thumb and pinch and count to 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's just a little sticky, and that's just exactly where it should be. Now I'm going to set it to rise. I'm going to again open a gallon size baggie and spray the inside with baking spray. Slide my dough into the bag and flatten it out and set it to rise. It will take probably 30 to 40 minutes for it to double in volume. Just going to set it here, and I'll keep an eye on it. Our potato scallion bread dough is now risen, and we're ready to shape it. At this time, we don't want to actually knead it. We're just going to gently press the gas bubbles out of it. And then be sure you have a smooth surface, and this will be the top of the loaf. We're going to lay that down and draw the dough up from the bottom so we make an attractive and smooth loaf. There it is. It smells so good from those scallions. I'm going to put it on a baking sheet now, and it needs to rise until it has doubled in size. And then we will bake it. It's important when you're baking a hearth loaf like this, it is not in a pan, that you score it about 1/4 of an inch deep so that your rise will be uniform and your bread will be beautiful. And this bread is just wonderful. You're going to really enjoy it. Now I'm going to use an egg wash. Always wet your brush with water before you dip it into an egg wash. And the egg wash is 1 egg white and about a tablespoon of water, and they're beaten up together. And it'll give your loaf a nice finish. This is the potato scallion bread. It smells divine. Let's check the temperature and be sure that it's done. 179, 180 degrees. It's done perfectly. You have been baking bread with Nancy. It's so easy and it's so delicious. I'm sure you will enjoy baking your own bread.